Welcome to the Daily Dharma, a gentle podcast where we read a philosophical story every week and reflect on how it relates to everyday life. Our focus is to use Buddhist philosophy to understand the complexity of modern life and find achievable and accessible pathways to peace. Hi everyone. Welcome to the Daily Dharma. In this episode, we'll be talking about shifting our desire, what it means, and how it helps us in our everyday lives. The story that we'll be reflecting on this theme is called Attachments and Desires, and it comes from the book Zen Stories with Master Seiji by Daiki Shimada. Here is how the story goes. The owner of a small supermarket nearby approached Master Seiji as he was watering the flowers in his garden. Master Seiji, the visitor began hesitantly, why do you always seem so happy? Seiji offered a gentle smile and set down his watering can. Every day, I'm glad to feel the gift of being alive and grateful for knowing this peace and calm, he explained. But don't you have any desires? The visitor pressed, intrigued by Seiji's apparent contentment. My mind isn't free from attachments and desires, Seiji admitted, his smile becoming a tad more reflective. For example, the desire for fame confused my mind for a long time. The visitor nodded, encouraged by Seiji's openness. And how did you overcome this desire? Seiji responded, by realizing that true fame isn't found in others' recognition, but in the ability to live in harmony with oneself and the world around us. I've learned to appreciate the little things that enrich life, the warmth of the sun, the freshness of the air, the company of good friends. These insights have taught me that satisfaction doesn't come from achieving external goals, but from understanding and accepting one's inner self. The man looked around. A sense of clarity began to form within him. So, the key to happiness is accepting what we have and not constantly striving for more? That's one way to see it, Seiji confirmed. It's realizing that we already possess everything we need for happiness within ourselves. When we learn to live in harmony with our inner desires and the external world, we find true peace. With soft steps and mumbling to himself, it's about understanding that true happiness and peace comes from within, aligning our inner desires with the world around us. The visitor walked away, having brightened his day by speaking to Master Seiji. This story just feels so poignant because when I think about my life, desire, as for all of us, is a very strong motivator. It is very much that pull that pushes us in the direction, in the decisions that we make. For example, our desire to be loved is what makes us act out as children. It's what makes us want to either fight or make friends at school. And ultimately, this desire is going to influence what we even choose as our career, because we're going to gravitate towards something that we feel is going to allow us to get what we want. And thus, desire is not something that, as Master Seiji explained, anyone can really escape from. According to Buddhist philosophy, we're born with desire. And when we look at developmental psychology, the desire to be loved, to be accepted, to be wanted by others is simply innate in human beings. And of course, it's not exactly the same for everyone, but it still stands that everyone has desires. And initially, especially when I first started meditating and learning Buddhism, there is this strong sense of desires need to be eliminated, that they're all bad and you just need to get rid of them. And once you get rid of them, everything will be okay. But of course, desires are not just like some object that we can take out of our minds, plop down, and move on. In fact, desires are very much the lifeblood of so many things in our lives, because if you really think about it, the desire to be loved is what drives so many facets of our lives as children, as teenagers, and of course, as adults. So then, what is the right relationship with desire? And this kind of reflection is something that I do over time, but I really think that when it comes to desire, it's not that we need to reduce or get rid of the need to be loved, but we really need to change and shift how that desire is centered within ourselves, and also define in much healthier terms how that desire is achieved, what it looks like, who it comes from. Because early on in life, my desire to be loved looked like having other people love me and other people validate me. And because of that lack, it led to a lot of pain and confusion about my worth and about my place in life. But in kind of understanding the root of that pain and acknowledging that this is where the pain began, this desire to be loved, I was able to shift that desire. And what I mean by shifting is I learned that we can also love ourselves just as we love other people. And that love comes in so many different forms. Love is not just this one way or one type or form. It comes in many, many forms. And it could be as simple as your cat just coming up to you and asking you for a little pet. It could be the sun shining on your skin on a beautiful summer day. It can even be a little smile from a stranger on the subway. And thus, there's so many ways to feel love in this world that aren't the stereotypical Hollywood form of love, which is between two romantic partners. And loving kindness meditation, which is one of those techniques in Buddhism, is something that really helped me see that love is not limited to just two people in a romantic setting. Love is something that can happen in so many different ways. And if we stay open to that, we can feel that love in different ways as well. And in the past, I would say that I never felt like this desire was ever fulfilled. And that's because it was very hard for it to be fulfilled. The parameters, the rules, the definitions I had for this love to be fulfilled was almost impossible. Because when your definition of love is to have love in a romantic relationship, and that romantic relationship has to be nearly perfect, well, no one is perfect, and no human relationship can either be perfect as well. So what happens is that you very much are spending the whole of your life looking for that perfect relationship instead of examining within yourself, where does this need for this perfect relationship come from? And what is the true desire that is the root of this motivation? And ultimately taking the time to really unravel to the root what our true desire is, which for many of us is to be loved. We gain the power to really shift how this desire takes place in our life, how it's fulfilled, and also we open ourselves up to the different ways by which this desire can be achieved. And that is the beauty of having the power to shift our desires, especially when we allow ourselves in this lifetime. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. May you have a beautiful, safe, and joyful week ahead of you. If you have any questions or thoughts, I would love to hear from you. Please email dailydharmapodcast@gmail.com anytime. Until next week.